Let's get some more on our top story now, and the proposals for a new high-speed rail link linking London with Scotland that would go through Manchester and cut journey times between Manchester and the capital vastly. With me is Richard Critchley from the Greater Manchester Chamber of Commerce. Richard, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. The idea of these plans is to cut congestion on the railway lines. How much of a problem is that sort of congestion for business?
It's been a growing problem for some time. I think people recognise that issues like the West Coast Main Line and key in-city services into Greater Manchester have been reaching capacity, already at capacity for some time. And even with all the major upgrades to the West Coast Main Line, that's due to reach capacity in the next 10 years. So things like with major train investments, major train new lines, etc., they can take 10, 15, 20 years to build. So it's essential we sort of start planning now for the future when that capacity sort of gets to critical levels.
How much of a difference do you think these proposals could make if they do eventually come to fruition?
It would have a huge impact on Greater Manchester. It could, high-speed line to London would slash journey times to the capital by at least an hour. And for business, time is money. That would have a huge impact on the attractiveness of Greater Manchester for visitors, tourists, investments, people want to live and work here. So the whole image of Greater Manchester would change, making it a more accessible, connected place.
I suppose for businesses, a lot of businesses around here, they may have people who need to go to London for meetings, and I guess at the moment with journey times so long, they've got to weigh up, is it best to go by train, is it best to go by plane? And I guess this will hopefully make that decision a bit easier.
Yeah, I mean, the West Coast Main Line has had some major upgrades, so time speeds, the journey speeds to London are improving all the time, and they have got pretty good recently. But this whole issue is sort of planning for the future. I mean, the capacity on the West Coast Main Line, the popularity of it is sort of almost its problem. There's so many people travelling, it will reach capacity. And there is this need for this new line. If you're building a new line, build at high speed, and the benefits you'll get from that in terms of economic returns are absolutely huge for the North West. I
was going to ask you about those, because what benefits do you think companies around here will get from having those closer links? Because it's not just London, you're going to be able to get to and from so many other cities, both going outwards and coming in so much quicker.
Yeah, it's all about key access to markets. I mean, Greater Manchester will be connected to the rest of the United Kingdom a lot quicker. I mean, even journeys to Scotland, the journeys will be slashed on that. So it will make Greater Manchester a lot more connected place. And I say time is money, so it will directly save money for those businesses, enable them to get to new markets, and also widen the number of people, the number of staff they can appeal to. But the key thing of building a new line is the capacity that will free up for other services like commuter services and freight services. And they're also reaching capacity. They're sort of at critical levels. So if you improve capacity for freight services and commuter services, you automatically sort of expand your labour pool, your labour market and your market straight away.
I know Network Rail are saying that these proposals, I think it would take 5 years to decide where the route would be, a further 5 years to actually build it. So it's going to be 10 years at the earliest before this could become reality. How quickly do you think, if they decide to go ahead with it, we would start to see some benefits filtering through with businesses sort of preempting this happening?
It's very difficult to say. What Network Rail have sort of looked at is they've said which lines need the extra capacity, which are the most sort of urgent pressing cases, and they sort of recognise that Greater Manchester is sort of on that list. Now, what they need to do now is sort of feed that into wider consultations and get other people to look into that. And basically, it's important that the government's got to back this now. We all know the sort of state the government finances are in. So we are talking about major infrastructure schemes. How's the government going to fund this? How are businesses going to sort of contribute to this? And how's it going to be built? I mean, there is a lot of planning here, and we're literally talking decades away before this could happen. But the fact that this is sort of, people are talking about it and Manchester's on the map will sort of bring attention to this city. More people are looking as a place to invest long term and a place to live.
And it is great for Manchester because they have decided if this happens, it will be a line through Manchester. I know there was another route being considered that would have taken it up the eastern half of the country. What representations will you make to the government about trying to press ahead with this and make sure this happens?
Yeah, we've been pressing for this some time. We'll continue to do that. I say that the best case for Greater Manchester is the issue of the capacity on the lines. Lines, especially through Manchester City Centre, are at capacity and have been for some time. And we've seen a massive growth in demand. I think over the last 10, 15 years, passenger numbers have increased almost 50% on key routes. And they are at capacity, physically can't get more people on these trains, so there's a clear pressing case. If we don't invest now, that could have dire consequences to the economy in the long term. We need to get people into town, get people access to jobs, access to markets, and we need to start thinking about this and planning for the future.
OK, Richard Critchley from the Greater Manchester Chamber of Commerce, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon.